hit like buttons, subscribe, get this stream shared, this video, this content shared across your social media platforms. We're talking Mbuemo. Could he be hijacked by Tottenham? We're looking into what Ben Jacobs and Sky Sports have had to say about this. We're looking at Manchester United's goalkeeping situation as well. Could Emi Martinez be the new United number 9 going into next season? Plus, we're having a look at something Rio Ferdinand has said about Victor Gyökeres. Is he right, or is he being a bit of a prat? We're going to get your views and opinions on all that and much more. So stay with us, sit down, grab yourself a little drink. I'm on water today. It's very warm where I am. But whether you want a cup of tea, coffee, something a little fizzier, it's entirely up to you. But sit yourselves down for the next 45 minutes to an hour, and we're going to be talking Manchester United. Let me take a sip of my drink. Hello to everyone that's tuning in. I actually see your comments easier today as well because we're back on StreamYard. It's back up and working. Cunny Funt, thank you very much for tuning in. Rob, always United. Big up yourself, my friend. Terry Bridge, thank you very much indeed. And look, there's first comment here from CRH is, if United failed to sign Mbuemo to Spurs after losing the Europa League final to them, they are no longer seriously trying to compete. Well, they should be if you're a Man United fan. But look, let's start off with this story. And it all stems from Sky Sports News. Sky Sports News have stated that there is encouragement for Tottenham. They have made contact with Brentford about the possible move for Bryan Mbeumo. They feel encouraged, and they feel that there is a willingness from the players' camp to change his mind and to join Tottenham Hotspur. And my first gut reaction when I see Sky Sports put out any transfer news is, could this be old news? Could this be news from 2 days ago where we sat here and discussed this? Actually, a week ago now, I think we sat here and discussed this now. And I stand by what I said then. I'm going to eat my hats. I'll put one of my hats in the oven. I'm going to roast it and attempt to eat it if Man United lose out on this deal. Nothing about that news changed my mind. That has somewhat changed today, though, somewhat, only slightly. And we're going to go into why. So Sky put that out. But Ben Jacobs, and I'm going to quote him directly here, has said that and again, we've got to break this down and analyze this. So take off your reactionary hats for a minute. Take off the anger. Take off the glee. Take off whatever it may be. Put it down and put on your analytical, critical thinking hats. He says, although Tottenham have stepped up their interest in Bryan Mbeumo, as called by Sky, conversations are not yet advanced. So Man United have had a bid go in and have been negotiating all week. United are at the advanced stages and nearly complete. It's very important to remember that. Brentford want in excess of 60 million for Mbeumo's preferred, and Mbuemo's preferred option is still Manchester United. Spurs have made aware of this before Frank joined. So everything I said last week has now been confirmed. Not because I'm in the know, but because I read between the lines. Spurs, even before Frank was joined, they obviously knew about Frank coming. They put this information into Mbuemo, and Mbuemo still chose Manchester United. He says a lot will depend on whether United meet the valuation. This is where we look at our own football club. Spurs prepared to better United's rejected 45 million plus 10 offer if given encouragement, but they also have Semenyo and Tyler Dibbling on their list. So for me, when reading this, I essentially break this down to nothing has really changed. Tottenham, we already knew they were interested. We already knew that they wanted to buy Mbuemo. They approached him and he said no. What I'm really reading here is Mbuemo might now be ever so slightly more interested in Tottenham. One, because Thomas Frank's there, but two, if Man United can't strike a deal with Brentford. If Man United walk away from this deal, he might go to Tottenham. There is no indication yet, though, that the player has decided, do you know what? With Thomas Frank at Tottenham, I would much prefer that move. And the day he does that, Man United walk away anyway. There's no point bidding for a player that no longer wants to choose you. So this for me reads more along the lines of if Man United don't meet the valuation, if Man United can't get the job done, if this prolongs for another 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks, a team like Tottenham will then have a chance, will then have an opportunity to step in and potentially take Mbuemo away from Manchester United. But we are still in the commanding position. We are still in the driving seat here. I'm a little more nervous than I was a week ago because it's now come from a very credible source in Ben Jacobs that Spurs haven't completely stepped away. They've made an inquiry into Brentford. Essentially, it reads to me like we're going to keep Mbuemo on ice. We're going to keep that plate spinning. We're going to focus on Semenyo and Tyler Dibbling because they're more attainable right now. But should the situation with Man United and Mbuemo change, should the player change his mind, or should United walk away from negotiations or refuse to pay the asking price, we may sweep in. So far, there is no indication from anybody that Bryan Mbeumo has changed his mind, though. So United's still in the driving seat, but this is one of those deals, and it all depends on how much you want Mbuemo. Now, I want him greatly at Manchester United. I think we should up our bid. Let's maybe put in a 50 million plus 10 or a 52 million plus 10 bid and see where that gets us. I think for Man United fans' sake, it might be a good idea to take the player off the market. However, from the other side of that coin, if Manchester United have been told by Mbuemo's camp today, and I said this last night right here on the United stand, and I'll say it again, if his camp turn around and go, we only want you, it doesn't matter what Spurs are doing, then there's no need for us to rush the negotiations and pay over the odds. So we have to look at it from both sides. However, the interest from Tottenham is real. They still want to sign the player. There is slightly more hope than there was a week ago. There is slightly more hope than there was 2 weeks ago. But Man United, according to Ben Jacobs, still in the driving seat. And Josh here, Josh Waring, 73 months as a member here at the United stand. Big up yourself, Josh. Know Josh very well myself. He says exactly, Terry, 100%. The pitch Spurs could have given him was that they were appointing Frank, and he still said, no, I want United. And that's very much my view, Josh. And until I read from a credible outlet that the player is in the process of changing his mind, has become disheartened with Man United, is really excited about Tottenham, that is when I'll panic a little bit. That is when I'll feel, do you know what? We're in real trouble here. I'm not going to deny that Tottenham don't have a chance. And maybe now reading this news from Jacob, I've gone from saying 5% to 10%. But Man United here still very, very much in the driving seat. James here says it's nobody's fault but United's to show they expect 120 million for Bruno, but they only want to pay 50 million for Mbuemo. They put clauses in saying United get Champions League next season, etc., etc. United don't want him. You don't think Man United want Mbuemo? And this has nothing to do with the Bruno Fernandes situation. We didn't say anything about an asking price directly to Al Hilal because Bruno didn't even accept their personal terms. I'm not too sure where you're getting that from, my friend. We have an outright, there's an underlying valuation that's out there in the media, but Man United made no demands for Bruno because Bruno at no point said he wanted to leave. He rejected the offer. Was this here from Josh as well? Josh, one of the members says Tottenham Hotspur have taken High Court legal action against Ineos. Well, that will be to do with Ineos pulling their sponsorship away, which, again, this is something that the Ineos hate brigade have to support them on, because we were all annoyed, including me, that they were still sponsoring Tottenham when they became our part owners. They pulled that sponsorship away. So surely we've got to be on their side here. We can't double bubble them. We can't double bubble them on that one if that indeed is true. Let's have a look at some more of your comments here. I don't get this. Well, I do actually. Cunha says he wants United, whatever, and job done. Brentford want full payment and not installments. So getting worried now that Mbuemo is gone. Do you know what, Andrew? I wouldn't be worried at this point. There is no suggestion and I've not read anything they want the full payment up front. Most football clubs don't make those demands. And do you know why most football clubs don't make those demands? Because they will set a precedent themselves. If Brentford go out there and tell everybody, we just want the full payment now up front. We want the full payment, the full payment, the full payment. And that's it. We won't negotiate in any other way, shape, or form. What do you think football clubs are going to start to do to them? Demand full payment, full payment, full payment. They will fall in line like every other club does, by and large, and pay these deals via installments. It's what clubs have been doing for the better part of 15 years. Even with deals as small as £5 to £6 million, rarely are the full lump sums paid up front by any club. In fact, most businesses don't like to pay the money they owe, their debtors, in massive lump sums. They all love to spread the cost over a period of time because cash is king at any business. So, Andrew, I get your fear, I get your worry, but that wouldn't be at the top of my priority list at the minute of things to be concerned about. Let's have a look here. Do you think it could be Brentford trying to accelerate a second bid? Great point. Absolutely great point. There could be an element of this from Brentford or an agent just pushing out a little bit of news, because you would think it would make sense. Arsenal wanted Mbuemo. Newcastle wanted Mbuemo. You probably find that they're all still interested. And this could be as simple as Tottenham reaching out to Brentford yesterday, this morning, last week, and saying, look, we know the player has said no, but please keep us abreast of the situation that's going on with Manchester United. Because if the world changes, United pull away, or the player changes his mind, we'd still be interested. Kind of normal. But maybe it is Brentford who have leaked this information to create that situation. Equally, this could be Tottenham. This could be Tottenham, because Pete here says that the spin is driving me crazy. Now let it drive you crazy. Relax. This also could be Spurs trying to drive the price down for Semenyo or Dibbling by using another player they've been linked to with a connection to Thomas Frank. There's multiple directions that this could be coming from. The reason why I wouldn't be losing my mind yet as a Manchester United fan is there's no indication the player's changing his mind. But if Jacobs or Fabrizio or Sammy McBell, Dean Jones, if they come out and say the player is changing his mind, then I'm going to be annoyed. But there's no point in wasting their energy until that is confirmed, just in my view. This here, I can't pronounce the name. Yeah, I'm going to butcher it. I'm so bad. My dyslexia can't read your name, but it says, we can't wait that long. I already saw this coming. But saw what coming? So your view is that Liverpool Spurs will hijack the deal and get him. If that's your view and you really think it's going to happen, then fair play. I respect your opinion wholeheartedly. You're allowed to have that opinion. But there is no indication that they're going to pull this off. Listen to what he said. Nothing's advanced with Spurs' approach. The player's preferred option is still Manchester United. Spurs have been made aware of this. They will look to make a bid if they're given encouragement, but there's no sign that the players can't have given them any encouragement yet. So I wouldn't, if I was you, lose the energy on it today, but I get you. Patrick here says, Frank to Spurs has been rumoured for a few weeks before it happened. Surprised if Mbuemo didn't know that before. He still said he wants United. I'd be very shocked. I'd be very shocked. I'd be very surprised if that had not already been made. What does make more sense isn't, for me, what isn't logical is, oh, hang on. Mbuemo wakes up, gets out of bed, has a little drink, gets his water, pulls out his phone. I'm not actually going to spit, but spits his water out and says, I can't believe it. What? Gets his wife. Is he married? I don't know. Gets his wife, says, love, come here. He doesn't speak with a Cockney accent, by the way. Love, come here, look. Look at this news. Look. Oh, Frankie boy. Oh, Thomas the Frank engine. I didn't know this. You joined Tottenham. Can you believe it? Rings up. Ivan, you seen the news about your old boss? Yeah, hang on a minute. Wissa's calling me. Wissa, have you seen the news? Hang on a minute. Oh, look, it's Hugo Lloris, the ex-Spurs keeper. Hello. Have you seen my boss's? Hello, bonjour. Have you seen that your old club signed my old manager? I didn't see that coming. And then he sat there eating his Frosties and thinking to himself, hang on. Do I really want Man United now? Oh, maybe I made a mistake. If I'd have known Thomas Frank was going there, if I'd have had any inclination, I would have waited a week before making my mind up. What's more logical? That or Spurs just stating, look, if the situation changes, we're interested. What's more likely? What's more likely? Give me your opinions. I'm just putting it out there. I'm just saying, right? I'm just saying, right? Think about it for a moment before you panic. I'm not saying it can't happen. I'm not saying it won't happen. But there is no indication the player has changed his mind. The news isn't saying player changes his mind after shock news that Thomas Frank joins Tottenham. It's saying he could be open to going there. The question I would ask if I was with Ben, and I'm sure that United Stan will ask Ben next week, I'm going to ask Ben next week, have Spurs spoke to the Mbuemo camp again? Is there any encouragement that he wants to leave? If the answer is yes, his mind is changing, then I think we can get annoyed and panic. Then we can moan that we didn't get the bid in sooner. But until that point, I'm not going to moan about a situation that may never arise yet. That's just me personally. However, you are entitled to do what you want. That is the point of this community, so you can express yourself. I'm not shutting you down. I'm not cancelling your speech. Just giving you my views on that. Wait, I think we wouldn't go. Johanna here says, wait, I think we wouldn't go there because why would he go there if he already wanted to leave the club, even though the manager was still there? Yeah, no, I hear you. You know, I hear you. Ornstein reported United are in place for a second bid. What happened? Nothing, Brian. Nothing has changed from Man United's perspective. We're negotiating the terms, the payment structures, the base amount of the new deal. There is no report that there's an impasse or there's a breakdown. Again, tomorrow Ornstein says the negotiations have stopped. There's an impasse. The clubs can't come to, they're not close to an agreement. The deal looks like it's going to collapse. Then we can criticize, or we might go, it was the right thing to do. If it turns out they wanted 70 million as a base suddenly and they kept on upping the price, we might agree we were right to walk away. But we've got to at least wait for the information, surely, before we start losing our proverbial minds over this. But there we go. Seriously, when is the second Man United bid? Well, as Ben Jacobs broke down earlier on this week, is that the bid going in officially, it will come once the negotiations have happened, and that's been happening over the course of the week. And negotiations don't happen like all day, every day. Does that make sense? Man United might ask a question. It might take 24 hours, 48 hours to get a response. Then United get the response and go, right, well, we'll factor that in. What about this question? And it's part of negotiations. These things happen. So nothing has changed too much. And I agree with James here. 55 million plus 10 will wrap the deal up for Mbuemo and get it done. This year from a member, 2PXL says, Terry, I don't agree waiting until pre-season so we can save a few million, but Mbuemo misses pre-season. Sorry, I don't agree waiting. Can you put up again? I want to read that again. I think I misread that. Sorry, Matt. I don't agree waiting until pre-season so we can save a few million, but Mbuemo misses pre-season. So listen, I agree with you. If, for instance, we're deliberating over £1 million and we can have him today, but in the next 3 weeks, 4 weeks, we negotiate that 1 million, maybe £2 million down. But in that time, the player gets annoyed and says, I'm joining Spurs instead, then we can criticize it. But if we sign Mbuemo today, or we sign him in 2 weeks' time when the players haven't returned, it doesn't matter. Other than us as fans feeling relaxed. But in the grand scheme of Man United, it doesn't matter. We're in negotiations. We're working towards a resolution. And I'm just stating, look, I've got some concerns too. But we're kind of moaning about things that haven't even been said yet. I knew this would happen. What? Spurs still have an interest in a player we've already known they've wanted. What the actual news said is that Spurs have had no encouragement from the... So it says, given encouragement, they might bid. That means they've been given no... It's the wording, semantics here. Had Ben Jacobs said Spurs haven't made a bid because they've been given no encouragement from Mbuemo that he's changed his mind, you'd all go, I feel relaxed. But that's what's been said. but just the other way around, that they will be if they get encouragement. So again, if I say to you, young man, Flossie over there likes you, she's waiting for you to ask her out. Okay? You could be like, oh, wow, that means she wants to go out with me. Well, she hasn't said that. She just wants you to ask her out because she's excited. But it means the same thing in reality. Do you know what I'm saying? You know, if I turn around and go, oh, look, if you like have a little bit of a flirt, show her some encouragement, she might say yes to a date, right? If you show her encouragement, that also means if you show her no encouragement, she won't say yes to a date. They both mean the same thing. Come on now. Patrick here with another super chat for us. I'm going to move on to some other subjects in a minute, but he says a situation United are in and the noise Amorim and co have been making, I doubt they would publicize transfers that they weren't sure of getting. Also doubt Mbuemo would want to publicize that he wanted United and then not join. I mean, yeah, look, there is that side of it. There is that side of it. I'm sure Spurs fans wouldn't mind. They would absolutely love it if that was the case. But I think you make a great point there, Patrick. Ruizar here says, we are Man United, Spurs, really? Listen, Spurs have done it before. They did take Paul Gascoigne off of us. That was pre-Premier League, but they did do it before. Mbuemo doesn't think that UCL is relevant. Again, that's also been, the UCL element is not what I'm concerned with. If you notice, the stories around Tottenham haven't actually pulled on the UCL element at all. They've all been centered around Thomas Frank being the manager, because the player has already decided that, and already said that having Champions League football really isn't the big drive for him. It's the project that he's going to. And everything else that is surrounding that. So, yeah, I'm not surprised to see that personally. Sorry, I don't know why I put my phone on there. Just trying to keep the stream running in front of me. Why is it coming back on? Little foul there, but there we go. In other news today as well, which I think is important to touch on, is the goalkeeping situation. So Rob Dawson today put out a piece where he says Andre Onana believes he will remain at United next season, with no solid offers from Saudi yet. Amorim has been clear that after a rough season, no player is guaranteed a spot, but he can't overhaul the entire squad in one summer. I kind of love that because it almost feels it's a sentence or two filled with so much contrast and dichotomy and difference. Andre Onana believes he'll be the number one, but no clubs have bid yet. Because no clubs have bid yet, no one spot is safe, but not everybody can be overruled at the same time. I don't know how someone can believe they'll be at the club next season if that's the scenario. It doesn't even logically make sense to my brain. No one can be sure they'll be there next year, because if the right offer comes in and the correct alternative can be found, everyone's up for sale. But it goes on to say, Rob Dawson, that Man United have been alerted to Emi Martinez's potential exit at Aston Villa, although for now they are keeping a watching brief. Now, that is one to watch, and so many journalists have spoken about that deal so far this summer. Emi Martinez to Man United, keep an eye out on it. And I think it's all to do with the financial problems that Villa have got. And if you're not aware, at Villa, last season, they essentially were spending 97% of their entire turnover as a business, all the money they make in Champions League money, match day revenue, sponsorships, TV, the lot. 97% of it was being spent on squad wages. They went for broke. They tried to win the Champions League. They tried to re-qualify for the Champions League. They absolutely hammered it. And to put that into context, the traditional top six teams who earn the most amount of money out of all the Premier League sides typically spend between 45 and 60% on average on their salaries each year. So for Villa to be spending 97%, you don't need to be an accountant or a mathematician to understand that they've got financial difficulties this year. Yes, some of the players that were on loan, like Rashford, have now gone back to their respective clubs, so their wage bill dropped instantly, but they didn't make Champions League football. They didn't win the Champions League. They didn't win any trophies. So there's very unlikely to be any bonuses or increasing revenues from sponsors. So they find themselves in a really precarious position. They find themselves in a situation where they are going to have to sell some of their players. That is the long and the short of it. And Emi Martinez at 32, I think represents an excellent opportunity for Premier League clubs to step in and go, right, we know they've got financial difficulties. He'd probably, do you know what I think? If you were to actually look at Emi Martinez at any normal time, if they made it into the Champions League as an example, what was he actually earning? Let's go and have a look at what he's earning here. I was going to say he's one of their highest earners. He's on £150,000 per week. His contract runs until 2029. So this is, yes, he is 32 years of age, but he shows no sign of slowing down. I don't necessarily put him in the world-class category, but I do think he's a top-class goalkeeper. Someone like him, even at 32, with 4 years left on his deal, is still probably going to cost you £40+ million in the market. There is reported an opportunity because they need to shrink the wage bill. There is the reported opportunity that he may be available for somewhere in the region of £20 million. And for Manchester United, who have still owe around 25 to 30 on Onana, need to be balancing the books because we ain't got great finances. We need to find a really happy medium here. So if the club can find a way to loan out Onana, maybe to a Saudi club with an option to buy, or sell him for a good price to a Saudi club and have his wages taken off the books, Manchester United may make a move for Emi Martinez to be our new number one. And for me, I'm really happy about it. In fact, there are a few outlets today that are stating that he is waiting for Manchester United to make that move for him. But what do you all think of that? Maybe not everybody's first choice goalkeeper, but on affordability, to come in for a 2 or 3 year period while we're rebuilding. We've got to remember our situation here. We cannot forget that we are rebuilding. We are never going to fill every position with number one, tier one, grade A, world-class talent. There just simply isn't the money to bring in 20 odd players over 2 to 3 seasons at that price. Sometimes you've got to look for good deals. And I think this really represents one. If you could bring him in for a cut price fee for the next 2 to 3 years, yes, look, there are still some errors in him. I'm not going to deny that. There are still some errors. He's not Alisson. He isn't peak Peter Schmeichel. But the difference between Emi Martinez and Onana, between Emi Martinez and Bayern, it's like watching me have a race against Usain Bolt. There is a fundamental gulf in quality, consistency, ability to save, everything. You will have a few moments from Emi Martinez, there's no doubt. But then I've seen Alisson Becker have moments. But for me, this represents fantastic business. So we've got a poll running for you right now. Get your votes in. Would you sign him? Already 83% of the vote is saying yes. So 83% of you at the moment agree. That's a landslide. That is a landslide. That kind of number. But let us know in the comment section. Let us know in the live chat. And of course, in that poll, whether you would like to bring him in or not. Shane here says probably rumors to try and push the price up. You might be talking about Emi Martinez, but sorry, you might be talking about the Mbuemo deal, but I'm not sure if that may not be related to this. Mark here says, forget Onana, just get a new keeper now, because sorry to say this, he is crap. Anybody, please. Look, I understand the sentiment. And listen, I was so gutted that he hasn't worked out for us. So gutted that he hasn't worked out for us, Andre Onana. That season he was at Inter, I watched a lot of Inter play that season, Champions League and in Serie A, and he was just magnificent. And it wasn't just in goal I was impressed. It was what he did with his feet. But we have actually seen none of that at Man United. It was almost like he had this sort of anomaly year. But then I even watched him at Ajax and there was mistakes, but even then, better with his feet. But maybe he just had this anomaly season. And I remember how good he was with his feet in that Champions League final. And I couldn't wait to see that in a Manchester United shirt. I was like, wow. But I actually think he's been almost no better than... I don't think he's been that much better than David De Gea with his feet. And the reason we moved on from David De Gea is, yes, there was mistakes, but it was what he was doing with his feet more than anything. We wanted to play it from the back, and he just couldn't do it. So, yeah, I was very gutted with him. I really, really was. Let's have a look at some more of your comments here. This is from Ian. It says, that's for that price, 20 million euros, do it. Same as the reported deal available for Edison for 30 million euros. 100% do both. Yeah, they both represent really low risk deals. And that is so key. It's the low risk element because of the price. It means that even if the player does a year or two and you move them on, there'll be a low book value, less chance of losing money, because we all know the more losses you make, the less money you can spend. We all understand that net spend isn't real, and it's all about your profit and loss every single year. So very talented players, they improve us. If there's always a risk factor, and in that risk factor is the players don't suit the Premier League or don't work. If that indeed happens, if that indeed is the case, the book value isn't bad. You can move them on quite easily. Lou here says, Terry, I'm not feeling another erratic keeper. He is better than Onana, but he wouldn't be my pick. I hear you on that. There is an erratic nature within him. But, you know, there's something about Martinez. Like, so for me, I don't find Onana erratic. I find his judgment poor. So do you remember that goal Nottingham Forest scored 2 seasons ago where he fell on his bum? He kind of reads the situation. With an attacker, they make a bad decision. They cross when they should shoot, and they shoot when they should cross, or they don't play the right overlaps in, and you say your decision-making is bad. Onana has bad decision-making more so than he is erratic. Does that make sense? So there's sometimes where shots have gone, he stood still when a shot's gone to his right and he hasn't dived. And that's because he's put his weight in the other direction, because what he's tried to do, he's anticipate, he's definitely shooting left. So he's definitely shooting right. And then he starts moving that way and it goes left. And he's like, oh my God. He makes really bad judgments of error. Really bad really bad judgments of errors. That doesn't even make sense. He has really bad errors of judgment in terms of the flight of the ball and his positioning, as opposed to being overly erratic, where Emi Martinez can have some crazy moments, but that's kind of what makes him brilliant. Like, he's erratic, flamboyant nature is what makes him such a good shot stopper. And for me, I want to go back to someone that makes lots of really good saves. But the thing with Emi Martinez, he barely concedes those. The amount of easy shots that Onana concedes is unbelievable. So I do think there's a difference. But I get where you're coming from. I get the sentiment. But I do slightly disagree. I may not have articulated it that well. The United Stand here says he makes it obvious for attackers as to where to shoot. That Forest goal is a prime example. But also, do you remember when we beat them, Wolves, last season, 2 seasons ago, where Manu got the winner? But do you remember the counter-attack that they equalised from? And it weren't even that good a shot from Neto, but his positioning was so bad. And he's really sluggish. He can't move quickly. The goal in the Europa League final, Emi Martinez saves that. He's more nimble on his toes. I actually think with Onana, he might actually improve if he lost a stone. Like, if he found I don't know how you do this. I'm not a personal trainer, but he needs to lose like a stone of muscle. He almost feels too rigid, too heavy at times. I agree. His reaction time is just dreadful, Terry. But his reaction time is bad because his positioning's bad and his judgment is bad. It's almost like he expects the ball to go where he is and it goes the other way. And by the time he realizes, he can't dive in time. And I think it's a combination of, and that does affect your reaction time, but it's his positioning and his judgment. It's just so poor. And I hate saying it. I don't like saying that about my own players. I remember his debut against Real Madrid, where Bellingham chipped him in 10 minutes. 2 games after he got chipped again, might have knocked his confidence. What game did that happen in where Bellingham chipped him? Why don't I remember that? Was that a pre-season game? Yeah. But he's had it since day one. He's just not been confident in a Manchester United shirt. It's been so unfortunate for us. Why don't I remember that game? It was pre-season. Oh, there we go. That was maybe why. Maybe I didn't watch that one. Maybe I did. I remember when Old Trafford, where someone scored from the halfway line and he was caught off his line, and it weren't even. It's sometimes little things don't help. Where I defend him, you know, the way he got caught in the net and it became a meme. It was almost like, because it was pre-season, I'd just let that go in. I'd have saved the memes. Sometimes you've got to understand that a little bit. Yeah, against Lens, I remember that game. That was horrible. John LQ here says horrible reflex. Listen, I hear you. All of it. It's why, for me, 82% of you have voted yes to Emi Martinez. Listen, and you don't even get elections that won by 82%. So that's a landslide. We win. We win on that debate. We win on that debate. The other story that I wanted to speak to you about today, aside from goalkeepers, is to do with the striker situation. So a story today, and this comes from, I want to get the name of this right, from Sebastian Denis, who is an Italian writer, says here that Manchester United have resumed talks with Victor Osimhen to work out details of a potential deal. He still wants 12 million a year net a season and has a price tag of around 75 million euros. And the problem is with 12 million a year net is you have to do the maths on that. But essentially, that comes in at around about 10 million pounds per year, about 10.2 million pounds a year he wants net. So over the course of a season, so that's only 196,000, but that's net. So what you're probably having to look to pay him is somewhere in the region around 350,000 pound a week. That is the demanding wage, according to this report coming from Italy today. Is he worth that? It's not 200k a week. So Clover, it's net. So that's after tax. In fact, I can run those numbers. If you want 190k per week net in the UK, how much is that gross per week? Just run it in. I'm not going to sit here and mathematics. I'm going to get it done. It doesn't quite work out at 40%. It's slightly higher. So let's just, you got national insurance to take into account as well. Let's have a little look here. So you would need, it's doing all the maths here. This is where AI is amazing. Actually, it's not that bad, you know. Gross weekly income, it would be 273,000. So although people say it's 40%, there's a percentage of it that isn't 40%. You've got to put national insurance into that as well, because they are just PAYE employees at football clubs. It's 173,000 a week. See, I'm not against that. I'm not really against that. 173,000 gross a week. It's 14 million pound a year. It's only a little bit more than what Rashford earns. It's only a little bit more than what Sancho's earning. And this man is a prolific goal scorer. I'm not against that, you know. I am not against it. How about you? Carlos says walk. Why though, Carlos? Tell me why you'd walk. I'm not saying don't try and negotiate it down. But who else is out there that's that good, that's available? They believe that he can be bought for somewhere in the region of about 75 million euros. That's around 63 million pounds. So again, you've got to think that the likes of Ekitike have got 100 million euro price tags. Osimhen's better than Ekitike. Osimhen's better than Delap. Osimhen's better than Šeško. I prefer Gyökeres, but he's better than the other guys. Lou says, Terry, no, we can't break our wage structure like that in a rebuild. We are trying to get rid of that Sancho Rashford type nonsense. Do you did you put vodka on your shreddies today? I'm thinking about this as a prolific guy. Now, look, we have to do our due diligence. We have to make sure that he's not just joining for the money. Is he asking about the club and how we're going to play and the direction and who else we're signing? Is he asking about his role and what he has to do? Like, what questions is he asking? The money, I don't want to pay someone money to join. I don't want them to only come because they're being offered good money. I want them to have a desire to join here. But I just don't think you can sign players of his level and not pay them £200,000 plus a week. And some of you are saying, I'll tell you, cap it at 250. Cool. But then this is where we can be creative, right? And what do you make of this, Lou? Offering £200,000 a week as a base. But say if you score 20 league goals from open play and we qualify for the Champions League, we will pay you. I'm actually going to work this money out now. We will then pay you my maths that didn't work out the way I wanted it to. I clicked on the wrong button. We will pay you a £4.16 million bonus, which essentially adds £80,000 a week to that. So therefore, you're incentivized partly in that structure. I think there's ways we could be creative. Now, you give them the same win bonuses and score bonuses of any other striker so they can really maximize his money. But I'm not against that. I'm not against turning around to someone like a Victor Osimhen and say, I know you want 270 a week, but actually we could do something that's a little bit more creative. It lessens the risk on our side. It required you to deliver. Like you can't just be here. You've got to score, be consistent, play a certain amount of games, and help us get back into the Champions League and win trophies. But as you do that, bang, we won't give you 273 a week. I'm only using that figure based on the report that's come out today. So let's make sure we're in context here. If you achieve against that, the team achieves against that, bang, there's your money. If not, then we don't have a deal. Rofus here saying, no, thanks, though. Why? Come on, you've got to give us a little bit more. You're the biggest and the best United community in the world. You've got to give us more information than that. I need to know the whys, the whats, and the wheres a little bit more than what you're saying. Let's go to some of your comments that are coming through here. Darren here says, Barca's keeper, Ter Stegen, would be a good signing for us. Something about that deal I don't like. Something about that. Didn't Chesney keep him on the bench? Keep him on the bench all year. Something about that I'm just not keen on. Where's the trophies from? These are just replicas, bro. Them ones are not. Those ones down there. There's a couple of my actual trophies from my martial arts days. The rest of them are all just replicas. Hi, Terry. Apart from Garnacho, do you think we will sell any players this summer? That's from Ian Tracy. Yes, we'll sell players. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind that we will sell players. I'm convinced of that. However, it's going to be difficult because everyone's going to try and stripe us up for price. We have been renowned for 12 years of being woeful sellers. So it's going to take time to build up our reputation. But I think we will get rid of a good 5-6 players this summer. I really do. We're not even, the real window hasn't even opened yet. It's 3 days away. So let's see how things move forward there. But I think we will get rid of people, Ian. Dean here says, watching you from Arizona, USA, you should visit the West Side. Yeah, I'd like to go. Arizona is one of those places that obviously heard of it loads. And yeah, I'd love to visit. Love to visit one day. Would love to visit Sensei Terry. Actually got quite a lot of trophies. I was quite lucky. Best place on earth is Arizona. Yeah, I haven't been. I've been to a lot of places in the States. Not been to Arizona, though. But yeah, would love to go. This here from Vagabond Reaper, who says, my Barca friend says Ter Stegen is worse than Onana. I agree. Yeah, there's something about the deal I'm not keen on. I haven't watched enough of him to have a full and frank opinion, but there's something about it that makes me a little nervous. Now, speaking of strikers, I wanted to speak about Rio Ferdinand as well for a moment. So I saw Rio Ferdinand on his own channel sort of say that he doesn't like the look of Gyökeres. Doesn't think, him and Lescott were saying they've watched him up close 3 times and they don't think that he could hack it or cut it and the Premier League would be too physical for him. He's also said that United should stub Gyökeres and sign Osimhen. Now, I'm not against signing Osimhen at all. The suggestion in itself isn't the issue. And this is something in life I try to do most of. It's not what someone's asking for, it's the why. It's never what someone wants. It's the why behind the what. Always tackle someone's why more than their what. Because you might agree on the what. You may not agree with their motivation. You may not agree with their rationale and their reasoning. If that makes sense. But he keeps asking for it. And do you think he's being a bit of a prat? And I'm using the word prat. I know it's Mark's phrase, and I'm using it because I'm on his platform. Is he being a bit of a prat? Is he pandering to... He's an ex-pro. He's a professional. He's an ex-United. He's a United legend. He's not an ex-legend. He's a legend. But is he pandering to the social media mob? Does he really mean this? Because I was watching Joel Bayer. Joel Bayer couldn't believe what he was saying. Joel's sitting there like, what do you mean? And everything feels a little bit innuendo, a little bit open-ended, and very, very much not specific. What's the opposite word for not being specific? Unspecified. Maybe that's the word. I don't know. I'm a working class man. I'm not overly educated. One of the biggest lies you hear about Gyökeres? You can only score in space, counters. Ooh. Got a little fact for you, Rio. Got a little facts for you. Anyone who sits there and pushes this notion about he only scores counters. This is the Prem. This is the Prem, bruv. There's be no room here. You ain't getting them counters. This is the Prem. In the Premier League last season, 116 goals were scored on counters or transitional attacks, as the kids like to say. In the Portuguese league, where Gyökeres plays, in the Portuguese league, where Gyökeres has all this space to run into, counter-attacks are easy, where he's afforded space and time to score all these goals. 64. Almost half the amount. Almost half the amount compared to the Premier League. And you guys have put a great word in the comment section, vague. You are right. It's vague. You just won't be able to do that in the Prem. Why? Because you've watched him 3 times up close. Scouts watch players multiple times. And yeah, I've seen him get shoulder bars off a ball. I've seen him be out-strengthened and out-muscled. But I've seen the best strikers in Premier League history get out-muscled. Look at Drogba. Fantastic footballer, wonderful finisher, physically an absolute specimen. I've seen defenders nullify him in games. Imagine you only watched those 3 games where he was nullified. That Drogba ain't good enough. Why? Well, the 3 times I watched him, he was bullied. Can't get away with that in the Premier League. It's crazy talk. It's crazy talk. This notion that he only scores his goal because there's acres of space to run into. Well, when it comes to counter-attacks, the Premier League almost doubles the amount of opportunities you get in Portugal. So, based on the logic that he only scores in space, well, he's going to score fucking double the goals, isn't he? Excuse me for swearing, Mark. He's going to score double the goals because you get double the counter-attack opportunities in the Prem. I believe that there are faster and more physical players across the board in the Premier League compared to Portugal. I believe his goal-scoring numbers will diminish slightly. 25, 30%. But this idea that he will not score goals is crazy. Equally, that's why the asking price for Gyökeres isn't £150 million. It's because he hasn't been doing it at as high a level. And yes, there have been other good goal scorers in Portugal that haven't gone on to be the best strikers in the world, but they weren't scoring 97 goals in 102 games. They weren't also doing it at international and Champions League level at the same time. I just find this notion, there is kind of like this notion right now on socials to just, okay, look, this is a trending topic to say Gyökeres won't score goals in the Prem because there's too many transitional goals and he ain't strong enough. And no one does any research into whether or not this is true. None whatsoever. It's just then the kind of theory becomes a fact because enough people say it and then everybody starts talking about it. It's like, hang on, the whole of last season, when I saw everybody get whacked in Liverpool, no one said a thing about this. It's only because he's linked to the 2 most hated clubs in England, in Manchester United and Arsenal. That is the only reason that this conversation is happening. That's it. And if you're going to, especially as an ex-pro, if you're going to tell us that you won't be able to hack it in the Prem, you cannot be so vague. We need specificity. We need examples. You've got the money. You've got the opportunity and the means to do it. Create the graphics. Show us where it will go wrong. At the moment, because look, he might be right. He might come here and flop. But do you know what I think people are doing right now? They've got a blindfold on and they're not aiming, they're just throwing the dart and they're hoping they hit the bullseye. Do you know if you blindfold yourself and throw a dart at a dartboard, eventually you'll hit the bullseye. Eventually you'll get it right. My dad calls it throwing spaghetti. Some of it will stick to the wall. Some of it might stay there forever. Like, this could happen. My daughter and son threw a bit of gunge on the ceiling in their room a little while ago. Behind the curtain it went. Forgot about it. I was going to, get that down later. I forgot. The other day I went back in the room. I was sorting some things. It's still there. 6 weeks later. Some things just stick. Doesn't mean they've got any real place being there. So yeah, for me, I'm not a fan of it. I'm not a fan of it at all. I think there's a lot of insight that's lacking. I think it's just pandering to the social media cries. And I love Rio Ferdinand. I have no personal agenda against him at all. Why would I? I don't know him. But I just see some things and I'm like, bro, you're not a content creator. You're not a fan. You're an ex-pro with insight, with understanding of the game, with contacts for days. Give us, if you believe what you're saying, give us meaningful, tactical, technical, professional breakdown as to why, as opposed to it just being, nah, you can't hack it here. Unforgivable in the Prem to play like that. Play like what? And then all you get is people go, yeah, I was right, Terry. Why? Rio said the same. Rio also told Ole Gunnar Solskjaer to sign the thing. Just putting it out there. Are you Mark Goldbridge? Yeah. I am, Mark. We've done Face Off. Nicolas Cage and John Travolta, but just the uglier version. Do you know what I mean? He's had the Cockney accent put in, hair changed color, few pounds. It's not really weight. Although I am a bit fat, it's not real fat. It's just a bodysuit. Yes, I am Mark Goldbridge. Fake tattoo. Different green screen. There it is. A great film, Dinky Dinky. Great film. Wouldn't get made now because people would logically pull too many holes in it, but a great action movie from that era. Look, I want to thank each and every single person for tuning in this afternoon. It means a great, great deal to us. It really does. Terry's Gyökeres double. Do I look like Gyökeres? Nah. I wish I had Gyökeres. I'm not going to lie. I wish I had Gyökeres' body just for me. Do you know what I mean? I'd love it. Thank you all very much for tuning in. Mark and the team will be back at 8 p.m. UK time tonight, so make sure you're back here ready to go. If you want to come check me out, I'm live on the Football Terrace at 3:30 UK time, talking United, talking Arsenal, we're talking verse. We're going to be putting a lot of pressure on Liverpool. So if you want to come over there and banter Liverpool a little bit, that would be amazing. Until next time, my people, take care. Goodbye. God bless. And I'll see you all again very, very